Green. Should be good, Tobe.
Hey, there we are. Found us live.
All right.
Anyways, Hoagie's Garage podcast tonight. Facebook Live, YouTube, whatever else we're all doing. Brief rundown of our sponsors again. Got some new ones. We got Heartland Hardware in Brandon, South Dakota, George, Iowa, and Hayward, Iowa.
Yep.
Check
Appliances.
them out. Appliances, mattresses, whatever all else, but they got a brand new store in Brandon. Kaiser Aluminum Wheels just came on. So they're out of Alton, Orange City area or somewhere right in between that little strip.
Yep.
Got Huset's, and Mother's Day is right around the corner. I'm going to have to get the old push truck fired up.
That's right.
My Race Pass. If you ain't got My Race Pass and you're a race fan, you're missing out. S2F with the Power Eye. Where are they going this week, bud?
It looks like on March 20th, there's Power Eye Racing, and then 21st and 22nd this week. So, yeah, 3 races, 20, 21st, 22nd on start to finish TV streaming.
Mount Tabor Cabinetry out in Central PA with Chris Fizzle. Make some cabinets up for you if you're out in the area. We also have Morning Sun Marketplace out in PA.
Three football-sized flea market buildings.
Yeah, plus
food,
whatever's
all
outside.
kinds. Yeah.
Whatever you want. Turn 2 Lodge down in Knoxville. If you need a place to stay where you go to the race at Knoxville, it's literally right outside of Turn 2, about a block. You can walk to the track. Can't forget Fulkins Brothers Trucking. By golly, he took me to Vegas. Had a riot, by the way. And also Hero Haven.
Absolutely.
And I think that's all I got written down, bud. So if we forgot somebody, it is totally my fault.
All right. That sounds good. I thought you were going to say me.
I thought about it, but.
All right. We'll get going with the podcast. You want to go?
No, go ahead.
Okay,
You're in charge. I already talked.
All right. Here we go.
They're tired of listening to me.
Hey, Hoagie's Garage, and we're here live with Dale Furby. How you doing, Dale?
I'm doing great.
That's awesome.
Did you hold on to the doors when you went outside today?
You know, when I see the weather's bad, I try to stay inside. I was really busy. Had a lot of racing stuff. Business was busy. You know, just trying to get ready for the race season, basically.
Hey, Dale, can you either, if you're on speaker or whatever you're on, can you get a little bit closer to it?
Yep. How's that?
That's better. That's better. Thank you. Yeah.
You got the trailer all loaded up with parts and everything? Are you that close to being ready, or?
Nope, haven't even looked in there. It's still partially loaded from last year, so just getting the race rigs, the guys that race with us, just getting their rigs ready. Anytime we get outside, we try to get any outside work done, you know.
Yep.
So we're kind of hooked up. We're going to go over to dyno and dyno a couple motors here shortly.
You bet.
So
you bet. And a little bit louder if you can. I'm still not picking you up the best.
Let's go this way then.
There. I think that's better. What do you think, Tobe?
Sounds pretty good to me.
So
you got to realize, Dale, they don't want to listen to me and Bud. That is not why they come to this show. If they're not hearing you, they probably ain't going to stay on air.
Perfect.
Oh yeah, that's way better. So MSTS, what do we all got going on this year?
You know, so my deal with me really is I'm always looking at, you know, we got a really great schedule to start with. I mean, I feel like this is a schedule we're going to be able to lock down. Been working with promoters trying to lock this schedule down for years to come. You know, with a little bit of leeway of adding some more shows in there, you know, if we get some new tracks that want to come along. The numbers, as far as total numbers of shows, I really want to stay in this range. I think keeps it affordable for the, you know, smaller teams, you know, that got one motor, you know, 1 or 2 car program to be able to follow this series. So, you know, that's really some of the things that are going on. My end of things, you know, all winter long, I talk to promoters trying to put shows together, you know, trying to round up money, trying to get guys to follow us, trying to get sponsors, you know, just the whole gamut of things. And how can I make it better? How can Dale Furby make somebody want to follow MSTS? And so I'm always looking at the money, you know, how do we keep these guys coming to the tracks?
Yeah. So before maybe we get into some more questions with that, I guess my first question, how long has this series been going? And how did it get started? Were you the first guy in charge, or how did this all happen?
So MSTS was created by, you know, the 360 division was getting shuffled away, and they were bringing in the 305s, and I felt like there was still a ton of 360s around. And what was the reason? Was it sponsorship money? Was it a lack of cars? Blah this, blah that. Talking to other drivers, seeing what their interests were, trying to figure out what was going on with the tracks. Why didn't they just go out and find sponsors? To create another sponsor for the 305 part of it. I'm not beating up on the 305s, but that's just the way I felt at that time. So that's really how MSTS got started. I started the talks, and before long, tracks were calling me from all over the Midwest wanting to put shows on.
Oh, can't go wrong with that. It's always a plus when they're calling you, and then you know they're wanting to do it.
Absolutely, and in the meantime, so we did create MSTS, which had a phenomenal first year. I felt like we tripled our point fund that first year. And I thought, oh man, if it could just keep rolling like this, not realizing that the racing world, of course, I've been in it forever, but on the promotion sides of things, with racetracks, and I'm assuming dollars, tracks being open or closed, just it changes every year. And this is probably the closest I've seen it to normalcy for me on my side of things, where tracks want to kind of lock into a deal from year to year now. This is the closest thing I've seen in, 10, 12 years. So, and then, as we were going along, with the 360 deal, we had, some really great years there, but the last couple of years have kind of started to fall off, losing tracks. There's an absolute ton of tracks around our area here that have closed, from Wagner to, Denison, Iowa. Just we used to race to the Sioux City tracks. Now one of those is closed, and one's, kind of made it hard for sprint cars to be there. And is it affordable for some of these smaller tracks to have sprint cars there?
Yeah.
We used to go to a place like Worthington. Jackson doesn't have us anymore. Houston doesn't have us anymore. Hartford doesn't have us anymore. So those were all, you lose just an absolute ton of racetracks, and it just makes it hard for this, for that aspect of the series to, be pushed along. So, people were tripping in my ears about the 410 deal, and what I thought about it. And so I came back with the response pretty quick. I was like, if we can do the 410 deal and do it, the way I think it needs to be done, nothing wrong with any of the 410 series that are out there. I just, I'm trying to make it where you can go from a 305 to a 410, and can you do it reasonably, with tons of 12-head motors, SB 2000 motors, and, cheaper all-pro headed motors out there. I mean, you can buy a motor for under $25,000 pretty easily. Well, half of those 305 motors are $25,000.
Yeah.
So you just look at the finances of it, it really makes a lot of sense. If I could sit and talk to a lot of the drivers and help them understand their finances, the financing of a 410, a 410 deal, I think is a lot more viable than, racing the 305 deal. But you got to race the 305 deal to be able to get somewhere and get that seat time and learn how to manage a team. And I know this is all hobby stuff, but you really got to teach them the finances.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's kind of part of my job is helping the lesser guys be able to afford to go to the racetracks and go, travel around with MSTS and, and have more money going into their pocket. So as we go on this year, that was really my push. Was I felt like for the few shows that we ran last year, I think we ended up running 10, 11 shows last year. This year, I think we've got 20 shows on schedule. Got tons of sponsors. So I really pushed hard. We have, Cressman Sanitation, as our big sponsor, he's a series sponsor. And so we just keep going down from there, but we just absolute ton of sponsor, that do either point fund money, they do gift certificates, we do heat race money, tow money, a little bit of tow money, not a lot. I'm just doing a little. I'm picking X amount of cars this year that tow the farthest, because that's just all I can afford, to be honest with you. And so we're doing podium draws. hard charger, hard locks. We're going to do like a super slide bonus every night for a super slide job every night. Just things like that. Just ways we can get more money into the driver's pockets.
Yeah.
So you mentioned like 20 shows. Is that between both the 360 and the 410s, or
no? Just 410s.
Just 410s. You got 20 shows. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were mentioning the difference in the motors, and I'm not a super smart guy. Well, just quickly, are like your 410s that they had to run, is that a steelhead then, or what's the major difference to make it a $25,000 versus the 70 that the big boys pay?
Well, it's just the evolution of the motors. The cylinder heads have developed over the years. The bottom ends, for the most part, are still the same as they were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's just understanding the camshaft, the cylinder heads, the injections. So that's what's changing. It changes almost yearly, and that's what's driven the class to be, the motors to be so expensive. If I use just my team, we bought a motor for $25,000 that was fresh from a team. We just broke it in the other day. Sounded really good for $25,000. I can afford to take that motor and go around and race our series and pull into the track, for 500 start shows.
Sure.
Which all our shows are bare minimum 500 to start.
No. So 360 compared to the 410s, you have like what, 6 360 races and 20 410s?
Yes.
Is the 360 starting to go away a little bit or not?
And I don't feel like in other areas it is, but definitely around here it is. If it's only going to go away because tracks don't want us.
Okay.
They want 410s. They're looking at the economics. If you say it's outlaw 410s, they feel like they get more fans, more people track to, which you do see that. I feel like there's a lot of tracks we go to that I don't know that they get more fans in the grandstands with the 360s, and some of the best racing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But we don't have enough of those tracks.
Yeah. Because, like California, they're pretty hard on their 360s yet. They got a lot of them.
Yes.
PA's got the 358s, which is basically the same. But
the 360, yep.
And down south, Oklahoma, Texas, they got tons of 360s. Just up here, it's really fallen away. And then you just got to travel too far. There's still a lot of stuff out west of here, but it's just too far. The money just doesn't make it viable.
You spend $1,000 in fuel to get there. It's tough to make money right away.
Right.
Absolutely. What are some of your favorite tracks to go to?
I love Rock Rapids. As far as for us putting on shows, I feel like we really put on good shows there every year. Norfolk is probably one of my stands out. It's a little redneckish there, but man, do they put on good shows down there. And the fans pack the place, so I really like going there. Watertown's another track that's really, they're all little bull ring tracks, but the racing's phenomenal. So those are some of them.
What's fun?
What's that?
Personally, them little bull rings are what are really fun for me.
Oh, absolutely. I love it.
Mile track, but
the Husets of the days, when we're up against the fence or up against the berm, and you could see a slider coming from a mile away. That's just really badass racing. So what more could you ask for?
Not a lot. I ain't gonna lie to you. I mean, I went to Vegas, and it was a good race, but it's still a big track, and it's just not like sitting at Husets or one of them other little tracks.
And we'll be going to, Grand Forks this year, which is a small track, and that's always produces a lot of crazy sliders, so that'd be, we'll be up there for 4 days, so that should be pretty interesting.
Oh, you got a 4-day show, or?
We got, what's our first night? Our first night is at Norman County Speedway up in Adam, Minnesota. And I haven't been to none of these tracks, so this is first time for me if I'm going, but I'm pretty sure I won't be going. I got other things I got to do. But anyway, so we'll be up there at Adam, Minnesota the first night, and then the second night we'll be at Grand Forks. The third night we'll be at Red River Valley Speedway, and then the fourth night we'll be at Buffalo River in Glendon, Minnesota. And that's a big, King of the Wings, sponsored by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah. Glendon,
So
Minnesota. I don't know if I know where that one's at.
It's north of here, but
I think it's northeast of Fargo by about 30 miles is what I hear.
Oh,
basically
So everything's pretty close.
north of here, like I said.
yeah, that's
Yep,
not
yep.
that's not very far from Dean's place. That's where I'm getting.
No,
that's where I'm
you know,
going
just-
with this tow.
Okay.
Just like 30 miles north of Wyndham or something. No, I'm joking.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, well, I live in Rock Rapids, and I'm going back to Rock Rapids. You like to go there. They have started again now that technically winter's over. Spring is supposed to be here, so they're working at it again. They got some work to do yet.
They got some work to do. I swung by there about 3 weeks ago, and I was like, whoo. I was shocked.
Yeah.
But I hope they get it ready because I can't wait to be back there. It always seems like when MSTS goes there, we have a good show.
Yeah.
So
we were
I'm
there
really looking
3 weeks ago. Then the old concrete was still laying there yet.
Yes.
They got all that tore out now, and I think they got a tile buried. So now they can start smoothing things back up. I think I'm going by what I'm looking at, and then pouring some concrete again. And
yeah, the Snapchat that Darren sent out, there was a lot of stuff going on.
oh yeah, they got some piles of concrete laying there yet, but it's tore out at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing what the damage was done. But
Oh yeah.
yeah.
How do
Yeah.
Mother Nature was pissed off that week. Plain and simple.
Yes.
how do the points work? Like, say when you go to Huset's, and obviously everybody that's at Huset's is not running the MSTS tour. How do you do all that? I mean, that's got to take a little bit of work to figure out where they finished and how many points they get or whatever.
So it's really no different than what Houston. So they'll just wherever they finish is the points they get for MSTS or Houston Speedway. So the first place driver gets first place points, and it just works its all the way down. And Houston gives the first place driver their points. We give our first place driver our points.
Okay.
And the points go to our drivers.
Okay.
So we don't have like a split, driver owner points yet, just because we're so new into this, and I don't know if I'll ever get to that or not. I couldn't tell you. I don't, that's not in my vision right now.
So just so I'm understanding this correctly, so you'll have your 10 guys there, or whatever it is, 15, and your guy finishes 5th in the feature.
Tim Essenson finishes 5th.
He's getting 5th place points.
He gets 5th place points. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't know if he was getting first place points or 5th place points. Okay.
No, 5th place points.
All right.
You got to help us out. We're a little slow. I'm a push truck driver and Bud's a
Well,
fan, so we don't know
I'm
much.
a PE teacher, so it's.
Well, I'm talking racing, so I'm a push truck driver and
I-
you're a fan. So
I believe
we
it's
know.
just because you guys are in a push truck. I'll give you a pass.
thanks, Dale. I appreciate it.
Wow. I'd probably rather do that than what I do.
Yeah, less stress probably for what I'm doing.
There you go.
Although I did see a push truck in Port get hit this weekend, and
Oh, really?
it was a
No.
wrecker.
The wrecker got run
A
into.
wrecker fell over.
Yeah. Jeez. That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Only in racing.
You never know what you're going to see at a racetrack.
So
No.
So what are some of your hardest things to deal with, Dale?
Really, the changing environment in racing. The rules are just crazy to stay on top of. And I really work a lot with Doug out of Houston. But we try to keep the rules the same from, Houston to Knoxville to IRA to NOSHA to us. So everybody can go race at any one of these sanctions in the Midwest and they don't have to change. Maybe I think there might be one track that still is, or one series that's holding up on the wicker bill a little bit, but it's minimal. It's not, you got to go buy a whole new set of tires, or you got to put a set of mufflers on, or you got to do this or that. I don't think any of our tracks have mufflers.
No.
So it's really, that's one of the big things is being on top of the rules, and you have everybody reading your rules all the time. So then somebody will chirp in like, hey, you got this written down on your rules, so then I got to go back and read it. And of course, I got to get with Sean, which Sean does all my online stuff and pretty much runs the shows, all the out of town stuff during the summer. But I got to get after him, like, hey, you got to get with Doug and figure this out. I'm messaging Doug, or we're going back and forth with Knoxville, and just trying to make sure everything's right. And that's really probably the biggest thing is dates and working with other promoters. The promoters are good, but just trying to work dates around. That's why what I said at the beginning is I'm trying to lock the schedule in with a few dates because I really like to fill in around that 4th of July deal. I think that is just something that people are missing. Around here, that was a big hit back in the days, and I don't know why it wouldn't be a big hit again today, but I just can't seem to get a promoters to bite on that yet. But that's probably the biggest thing is just dealing with all the different series, promoters, drivers, rules, and trying to get sponsors.
Yeah.
And I'm such a nice guy. The sponsor stuff is great. I actually do love the sponsor.
Do you have the sponsors in front of you? Do you want to run through them, or do you want me to
Sure,
mention
sure.
them? Okay.
No. I got quite a few of them. I got most of them, I think, in front of me. So, like I said again, Crestman Sanitation is our series sponsor. Gunnarsson Racing Inc. is, one of our class sponsors. Hoosier Tire North, Advanced Contracting Solution, A Plus Towing, Barn Tire Center, Westover Concrete, American Truck Stores, MedStar, A&B Auto, Seafoam, Furby's Auto Repair, Custom Powder Coating, Links Media, and Tier 1 Racing. And that's stuff that Sean put on there that I have no idea what it is. And I'm working on a couple more. I'm always working on more just to try to fill in the voids.
Absolutely.
And my voids is giving the drivers money.
Yeah. So if anybody's out there, they can just contact you, right?
Absolutely. I'd be more than willing to take their money. No, but we're all of, my drivers, we get paid through other ways, or the guys that work for us, they get paid through other ways. I would say 95% of the money goes right into their point fund or to some form of, heat race money or draws or this or that. We have so many things that we got going on.
Yeah.
I'm guessing an average night, just right off the top of my head, we'll hand out between $1,200 to $1,500 extra a night.
Okay, that works.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, and it's all because of the sponsors. Without them, and I always say without them, but without the drivers, we don't have nothing. Without the sponsors, we don't have nothing. Without the tracks, we don't have nothing. But so I really, really, really push on, having the money to do the things I feel like the drivers need. Which of course we all know is money.
Yeah. So everything in the world revolves around money
eventually. I had a friend tell me the other day that that's all I cared about, and I was like, "Wow!" But it is really true. Without it, what do we do? Okay, we dig into our pockets, and if you listen to that press release with High Limits the other night, Tim Clausen was, Tim and both Casey King were both, it was a little bit of an eye opener. And if you heard what they said, I read into it because that's what I do. I read into everything. It's like me, you're reaching into your pocket to support your teams, and so Tim Clausen, talked about that, with how the high limit money was going to work and hopefully this was going to allow them to see the light at the end of the tunnel instead of digging in their pockets. Maybe they'll break even. And then I think that truly stands for a majority of the teams out there. They don't operate to the good side; they operate to the bad side, and you're just trying to make it all work. Well, that's really where I feel like I work so hard is on that other side, is trying to get all the other money covered. Whether it's through all those pass outs, handing out. Podium money or this or that or hard charge or hard luck. There's just so many avenues of handing money out. Could we refine that money and take and just put it all in the purse? Sure, we could. But I want to spread it out. I want to make sure that guy in 20th has a chance to get it just as well as the guy in first.
The guy running dead last can get slider of the night,
Absolutely. And it might happen at the checker flag even.
Yeah, you don't know, but like you said, there very few race car operations. I don't care from what I follow, don't matter what level. Very few of them are making money when they're racing.
Right.
They're racing for the love of the sport, especially
Right.
locally. They're all there because they love to do it. They're out there to put a show on. And if they can get a little money at the track from what you got going on and everybody else in the racing world, so they're not going broke doing it.
Right.
If they can come close to even, they're probably happy.
Yeah, and have a blast.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're going to be spending money somewhere, somehow, anyhow.
Yeah.
I don't remember who it was. He quit racing, said he went and threw darts and drank beer, and he goes, God dang, by the end of the year, I spent almost more money doing that than I did racing. So I went back racing because I like that better. So,
right.
Right. But, yeah. But you're seeing. And so, yep, go ahead.
And so that's really my focus is I'm trying, I want us to put on great races, show up at every track. I want to, and really one of the things, I want the tracks to make money. I don't want them to have us come there and not make money. But again, I know sometimes the crowd might not be good because of the weather or they booked it on the wrong night, I want to help with that stuff. I don't mind talking to these, and let them pick my brain. I'll be more than willing to talk to people about, some of this stuff, but it really, at the end of the day, if we can help those drivers show up every night, I think that's the best thing I can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect.
Absolutely.
Sounds like a hell of a plan to me.
Before we let you go, just kind of the start of the season here. It looks like May 10, you start at Norfolk, Nebraska, if they didn't get buried in snow today, but they have a little bit of time because it's May 10. But you kind of go there and then to
yeah, that's a 360 race. Yep.
And then 410 at Huset's, and then another 410 in Jackson on the 23rd. So
yes,
once you get going, it looks like you have a fair amount of races back to back.
Yeah, there's a little breaks in there here and there, but it's working around other people's schedules. So if that schedule you're looking at, if I could fill in that between the Brown County and Casino Speedway type, and then fill in that 4th of July deal, I would be so happy with that schedule. I think that's a good schedule that works for everybody. And then I want to leave room that they can go somewhere else, but also support our deal. And that's one thing we're really pushing for this year is we're pushing on the membership side of things. Because in that way, when I go to, we go to a racetrack, we can, show them the members that are, signed up, like, new one this year. If you look on our site, Jack Dover's coming back. That to me is big. Matt Jules ran a little bit of selective stuff of ours, but he's trying to figure out a way he can run more of our stuff, which, to me is says a lot for us. Yep. So we're attracting some of those guys. But I still want the guys that are racing the 305s that are we're in 360s to be able to, look at this and say, hey, I can afford to do this and come in there and do that. Yeah. And I do see like that, that Workmeister's going to run with us some, that Jacob Peterson run 305s. He's going to run more 410 stuff this year. In fact, that's all they got is the 410 motors. That Tyler Ravenberg come from the 305s. He's got, I think, 2 410s now. Micah Slindy bought a 410. The kid that races for me, he's young, but he ran some little bit of 410 stuff last year, but he only had a 360, so he has a 410 this year. So we'll see a lot of younger guys. I hope we see, like 5, 6 of those guys. I hear a rumor that Jody Roseboom's coming back to race some shows. So that'll be nice.
I can tell you that much.
Yep, we saw it.
He is putting a car together. I can tell you that much.
Well, the only reason I can say it is because his dad told me.
His car was sitting in the shop when we were out there the other day.
So, and that's all stuff that's I feel like is when people come back, whatever, I knew he wasn't quite ready to be done yet, but it's cool to see him come back and I think it's a good group of people that will follow our series, some well-known names. You get a lot of the guys out of North Dakota, you get Chris Tram, the Martin brothers, the McCarls will follow it a little bit, so, you get a good slew of names in there. Right.
Absolutely.
Oh, Jody's always kind of been a fan favorite. It seemed like around here, anyhow. Everybody likes.
Oh yeah.
So that'll be good.
Yep.
Oh, so on a side note, Snow says good evening, bud.
All right. Sounds good. That's good. I don't know. Is there anything that we didn't hit on that you wanted to cover, Dale, or?
No, the biggest thing that we got going on is, a lot of our shows are 5,000 to win. We got that 4-day deal up in North Dakota. We got that Merle Johnson Memorial over at Jackson that's going to pay 10,000 to win. Clay County has us over there for the fair race this year. That'll be 5,000 to win. And then we have the IRA MSTS 410 deal over at Jackson for the Jackson Nationals at the year, and the final night's 12,000 to win. So, and we'll be everywhere from Omaha, down in Shelby County, Norfolk, Nebraska, all the way up to North Dakota.
Yeah.
You can see us about anywhere. We're going to be in a lot of spots.
You start throwing in $10,000 shows for what I call a local series, I'd say that's a pretty good deal.
Yes. So yeah, hopefully we just keep working that way. I still want to keep it where, I really like to be able to keep it like it is, but just keep growing.
Yeah.
I want us to be, one of my jokes is I said, I want us to be that next series I feel like people are talking about, because of all the things we're doing for everything, for the drivers. And, that's just the way I feel. I'm all about the drivers.
You bet. That's absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks a ton. Go ahead.
I don't mean to interrupt, but last time we talked, I hit you up for sponsorship for this deal, but you still didn't. You guys were silent. like you could hear pins drop.
Yeah,
kind of like now.
Okay.
No.
We might have a couple more sponsors coming on if it comes through. And
I was actually going to tell you to stay on the line here when we're done so that we can talk just a little bit.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. But thanks a ton for coming on. Everybody needs to go support these guys. They're absolutely awesome. And Dale, we thank you for, promoting sprint car racing in our neck of the woods, because that's what we totally love. So thanks for everything you do, Dale.
Thanks a lot.
All right. So stay on the line there.
Yep.
Bud's got to get his exercise in, go around the bar to turn off the Facebook Live. We need an